Hey everybody, this is Raution, CEO and co-founder of InsuredMine, and you are listening to the 30 Minutes with Insurance CEO podcast, the show that is designed to inspire growth and impact so you can create the best version of your agency by learning from the leading insurance agency CEOs. This one is special because this is our episode one. And today we are talking about how to start, build, grow, and transition an agency with Brent Johnson. I could not have picked any better speaker than a friend, mentor, and an industry veteran who has spent almost 40 years within the industry owning and running an agency. Please welcome Brent Johnson, CEO, Peak Insurance Group. Thanks for joining us, Brent.
Thank you, Raution. Pleased to be joining you. Excited about your podcast adventure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right, let's start with the ice-breaking question, which I expect to ask everybody so I can get some flavor of understanding how they start their day. So, what do you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning for breakfast, I had a salmon bagel.
Is that something that it's everyday kind of a food, or is it something?
I've been out of town for a few days, so I got back and got a little special breakfast this morning as a welcome back for my wife.
Oh, that's very nice of her. I'm sure she was missing you, but nonetheless, you're back and happy to have you on the show. And let's start by help us learn a little bit about your agency. That you have grown in all these years. So what you guys focus on, what the size, and a little bit more flavor about it.
I started this agency back in 1994. We started with basically nothing, and we've built it up over the years. We're about 5 million in revenue. Now we have a staff of 32 people. We have locations in our headquarters is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but we have offices in Boone, Charlotte, Raleigh, a couple of other areas across the state.
Awesome. Talk to us, and I know I mentioned about almost 40 years, but, just to get a more precise, how long in business? When did you start the agency?
Well,
And
I mean,
growing patterns, anything?
Yeah, I literally started in the insurance industry. I graduated from college on Saturday and I started to work on Monday. So I've been
Man,
in it my whole career. I actually started out, I had a degree in business computer science, and I started out working with Nationwide Insurance in their corporate office in Columbus, Ohio, in developing their first computer system back
wow.
in the 80s. I left there and became a sales manager, a territory sales manager here in North Carolina, and after doing that for a few years, I decided, hey, I really want to be an agent owner. And that's what I did starting in 94.
Awesome, awesome. So, let's flip that for a second. What else would you have done if not insurance?
I guess I love airplanes. I love boats, something along those lines. I used to have my pilot's license. I haven't flown for a few years now, but back in the day in high school, I wanted to, be a fighter pilot. And I actually went to the Air Force, and they said, "Son, you're 6'4". You're not going to be no pilot for us." I was too
Oh
tall.
man,
Um,
that's
but
unfortunate.
but I always like flying. Now I'm more into boating, and I can see myself as a boat captain because that's probably my passion right now.
Yeah. So, would you just do the cruising boat, or would you do the speedboats?
No, I just do cruising.
Yeah.
Cruising. I've slowed down a little bit over the years. It used to
You
be
bet.
all about speed. Now it's about enjoying the scenery.
Awesome. All right. All right. So that's good to know the alternative you. Now let's start from start, which is how and why. Why did you start the agency?
Well, back when I grew up in West Virginia, and very economically challenged area I grew up in. My parents were always struggling with jobs, just a poor economy. And when I got into college, I went to one of my advisors and said, I wanted to get into something where I don't have, when recessions and things come along, that I don't have to worry about it like my
Hmm.
parents had. And they started listing some businesses that were somewhat recession proof, accounting. Always going to have to pay taxes, mortuary science, people are always going to die. But they mentioned insurance, and they said
Mhm.
insurance people always keep their insurance. It's somewhat fairly recession proof. And that's kind of what led me this direction, getting involved in the insurance industry. And it's proven to be true over the years. Yes, we're affected by the economy, but not near to the degree that many other industries are. So I've been thankful for that my whole career. We've been pretty steady on our income and growth throughout my entire career.
It's interesting you mentioned about the thinking behind, hey, it's a recession proof, and we know with the things happening, the interest rate changes, the rising prices, inflation, and the downturn a little bit that we hear the chatter. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's come back to that in a bit, but let's quickly focus on what what has been the biggest challenge so far in growing the business.
Well, I think for all of us, it's just trying to find new and better ways to attract customers. You obviously need that steady flow of customers coming in, and that's changed over the years.
Mhm.
When I started, it was literally the telephone book. you know,
Interesting.
and just dialing for dollars, and that's what many of us who've been around for a long time. That's how we started our career. But obviously, that's completely gone away, and over the years, we've had to pivot. And we pivot here, pivot there. Now, so much more of it's digital, and just one thing after another. But we feel like we've always done well in pivoting to what the best way to keep that funnel of people coming in. We've been able to do that, and technology has been a big part of that for us. So,
Interesting. No, that's a good note for everybody to take here is where the focus is. The focus is how do I fill my funnel, and that has changed over the years, and so you got to be thinking how I was selling or how I was bringing the prospect in the funnel 5 years ago or 10 years ago would not be the same.
yeah, it changes every year.
Oh, well, that's even faster. Well, let's quickly talk about from the business to personally you. What has been your biggest challenge as a CEO of the organization?
Well, once again, that's just like everything else. It's changed a lot over the years. I think all CEOs in every industry right now are probably more challenged with staffing than we ever have been in my career.
Sure.
And everyone I talk to, with the Great Resignation,
Yep.
everybody I talk to, that's probably the biggest challenge that we have right now. We are very fortunate. We have a very tenured, we have a pretty solid staff, and several of those people,
Of
and,
course, I
and
love
could
them.
not be,
Yes.
could not be more fortunate with the staff that we have. But
Mhm.
things happen, people move, people transfer. We're always in the mode of looking for who's going to be our next rock star.
Yeah.
So that has always been a challenge, but I think it's even more so today than it ever has been.
So you continuously invest in your team and being focused on them. How can I keep them growing?
Absolutely, and we're always recruiting. We're
Uh,
always looking. If we don't have a position open, if we find the right person, we bring them on. So we've
that's
always had that
interesting.
attitude.
Yeah, yeah. That's the word I'm gonna write down for myself is always recruiting for the
Yeah,
right resource. Okay.
we'll
Um.
find a job for you if you're the right person. If we don't have a job, we get you in here. We'll put you to work.
There you go. There you go. If anybody listening and looking for a job, connect with Brent for that reason. Um, Aspiring CEOs or the smaller agency CEOs, who are building up their book and who look up to you, who have been industry veteran. What advice would you give to them and how to get there or get where you are?
Well, it's kind of getting back to what I just said. It's all about the people you surround yourself with, and
Hmm.
that there is nothing more important. And I think you know that yourself in your business. The great people you have,
Yes.
you are only going to be as good as the people you surround yourself with. And a lot of times, if you get the right people, you just got to get out of their way and let them do a good job for you. So that is the number one thing. Find the best and right people and let them help you, because you'll never be able to do it by yourself, not even close. So
So let's expand that. And I completely agree with you that people is the pivot of any organization. But how do you see a mix of people, process, and technology? How do you bring them to enhance the value of your organization? What has been your take on this?
Well, well, first of all, it's almost like being a coach. You got to make sure everybody buys into what your vision is. And you're right. It's the process. It's the technology. It's those things that we have to combine together. But you got to make sure everybody's buying into that. And I think that's the job of the leader, to be able to go in and show them the vision that this is where we're going to be. If you trust me, this is where we're going to be if we follow these processes. If we take advantage of this technology, then we are going to be a winning team. But that's probably the number one job of the leader, is being able to get them to see that vision and follow it.
Interesting. Yep, yep. I know, and this gets into your wheelhouse of, you have been talking to a lot of agency owners, the associations, and you have been speaking at multiple forums. What has been the mantra that you have been trying to, bring to this industry? Talk to me about, as we were talking earlier, talk to me about your will.
Oh, my will. Okay. So, you know, I had people that mentored me and helped me grow. And I've always felt the most satisfaction to me in my business is when I can help someone else grow and help them be successful. And I've always been more than willing to share anything I've done or any knowledge that I can give them that'll help them be more successful. And so a while back, I started working on my will. And what I mean by that is what I have learned. And
Hmm.
I'm using that acronym. And I tell people, I said, these are things that you're going to learn, and you can either learn the hard way, or you can take some advice from mentors that are really going to shortcut you um, down the road. You'll be able to shortcut a lot of aggravation and frustration if you'll
Hmm.
take some of these things and keep them in mind.
Hmm.
So I told you that I would share a few of. I'm up to about 30 now, and
Oh boy.
I've got about 10 here, and I'll go through those very quickly because these are the things that I've learned, and they're not particularly in this order, but
Hmm.
and some of them are personal and some of them are business. Number one thing, you cannot motivate someone who is not motivated. There is nothing more frustrating in business than trying to motivate somebody to do a good job. And at the end of the day, if they're not motivated to do it themselves, you're just wasting your time. So if someone's not motivated, you just need to move on away from that person and spend your valuable time, which is all of our most valuable asset, on people who are motivated. Um, the second I have here, to have your best life in business and personally, and to enjoy yourself along the way, only surround yourself with people who are positive, have a great sense of humor, are highly motivated, and they are the get things done type people. If somebody doesn't have those characteristics, I don't associate with them. And, I just think that if you want to have the best life and best business, pick those characteristics out, and you'll enjoy yourself along the way. The next one is be slow to anger and swift to forgive. Things are
Hmm.
going to happen, and don't lose your temper. And I practice a 24-hour rule.
That's a
We
tough
all
one.
have we all have things that happen. I never respond to a negative email, conversation. I always wait 24 hours
Hmm.
before I respond to something that's upset me. And I found that over the years that I have a much more controlled, much more appropriate response when I let it cool down a little bit. We're in business; things are going to happen, and your temper it eventually is going to hit all of us about something. Um, Learn the ability, well, rather the humility. Be open to changing your mind. I think too many CEOs they're just they got blinders on and they're not open to changing their mind about things. And I tell people, if you haven't changed your mind on something in the last few years, you haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
you know. Um, this is more from the personal side, but it does work the same on business. Do you have 5 friends that you can count on 100%? If you do have those 5 or more, nurture those relationships. If you don't have 5, get 5. The next one is we're all going to have peaks and valleys. But there's only 2 things you can control every day, and that's your effort and your attitude. So you're in 100% control of those, regardless of what the outside forces are. So always remember that. This is one of my favorites. You'll never, ever get where you're going looking in the rearview mirror. You have always got to be looking out the front mirror, the front windshield. Too many people focused on past failures, past challenges, and they keep thinking about what happened in the past. You have got to put that behind you, and you just got to focus what's in front of you. And that's how you get where you're going. You've heard the old adage, work smarter, not harder. Well, the truth is you have to work smarter and harder. Okay? If you want to achieve the level of success that I know you want, that I want, that's a fallacy that you're going to have to. You can work smarter, not harder. No, you're going to have to do both.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. And we'll have a little fun here. The last couple I spoke recently, the last couple that I shared, because I have 2 grown daughters, and I shared a couple of things over the years I've learned about kids. So we'll have a quick little bit of fun here. So some what I've learned about kids. Up to nothing is usually followed by up to no good. So keep them busy. This is my dad's favorite that I've shared over the years with my kids. Nothing good happens after midnight.
Okay.
I always told my kids, when in doubt, don't. So that they learn to follow their gut feeling about things. And my absolute favorite is always remind them that the older they get, the smarter I will become. So,
all right.
So,
Oh boy, this is like, I have to get each of them printed in bold on a board right here.
yeah. So
That's a
anyway,
lot
that
of
was
good
fun.
learning.
I shared that recently, and I continue to work on that. But those are things that you learn over the years, and they become valuable to me. And I was joking this morning with Stacy, who on my staff.
Mm-hmm.
You learn so much between 20 and 30. Then you really learn a lot between 30 and 40. And between 40 and 50, it's probably the golden years of learning. And then 50 to 60, you continue to learn. And about the time you really, really got all this learned, you're looking at retirement.
Well,
So that's all. So all you can do at this point is pass it on. Yeah.
yes, yes. And I appreciate that, and the learning I got in the last 20 minutes, I think, I don't know if I would have captured that in the last one year, so this is
Well,
huge.
I appreciate that.
That validates the positioning, why I'm so fortunate to have a friend and a mentor like you. Why I say it, this episode is not just it's special, it's emotional, it's personal to me, because folks like you have been such a strong pillar of support of where InsuredMine is, where I am. We could not have been
Well,
without that. So we
it's been fun.
appreciate.
Well, that the people I told you to surround yourself with, you are one
Mhm.
of those people. You have every characteristic that I mentioned there. And
Thank
we laugh and we have fun while we're working, but we also get serious and we get the job done. So
for sure. Yeah.
that's what makes it fun. That's what makes working fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yes, it's smart. I like that one, the smarter and the harder, for sure. I am yet to figure out a 8-hour work week or a 10-hour work week. Man, it's
No,
never there.
it's just not realistic. That's
Not
just
really.
not the way it works.
And
Probably
especially
the
with
most
the kind
successful
of
person.
ambitions we have, it's not gonna get there. So, well, we'll hopefully someday in
Yeah.
60s. So I'm overwhelmed. My mind is running 100 miles an hour with all those tenets of thinking of, hey, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure everybody would appreciate that. So now let's get back to a little bit of operations. So we talked about technology, we talked about process, we talked about people. Let's double click on that and now talk about one of your favorite aspect of these things is data. What are some of the key metrics that you look at your organization, at your agency, from a data perspective that gives you a perspective of your organization?
Well, everybody's different. And for us, over the years, you know, you can just look, you can look at 100 different things, but there are just a few things that we focus on because we feel if we are hitting these particular items, that everything else takes care of itself.
Sure.
And, you know, people that are around me know I use a lot of sports analogies, but there's a lot of football teams that just really look at if we had 100 yards on the ground rushing, that is their main focus because they know if they've done that, then all the other things that it took to get there are going to make them win more games than they lose. Same thing in basketball. One coach may say, my main focus is making sure that I keep the other team below 40% shooting. Well, that's a number he looks at because he knows if he does that, that he's going to win most of the games. And getting back to football, if you got 100 yards rushing, that means you got the ball longer. Your defense is keeping the other team off the field. There's a whole lot of other things that go into that 100-yard rushing, but that is the key indicator you look at. So for us, one of the key things that we always look at are policies in force. You know, because if that policy in force number continues to always grow, then we know that we are reaching our numbers. We don't look at the premium. We don't look at this. We don't look at that because if that number keeps going up, that means everything else is being done correctly,
Correct. That's
and
interesting.
that means your retention's good.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, that means that everybody's doing their job. That means that your customers are happy. That means people are being referred to you. So that is our key matrix actually in our agency is actually, are we growing actual account holders in our agency every month? And that's the first thing that we look at. That means we're making new sales. That means there's 100 things that go into making that number good. But as long as we're moving up, I'm happy.
When I double click on that from a data analyst perspective, it gives me more color. Has the account number of accounts may be growing, but we also need to know if it is the per premium per account is growing or not, or is it, am I selling more policies per account compared to the previous policies? So obviously, as you said, there are other elements beyond that you would look as a second layer of data.
That's the second layer of it, because if I look at that, well, if everything's growing, then it helps us to see where are we growing? Where do we
Mhm.
need to grow more?
Yes.
There's all kinds of other things that go into that. But as long as it's like
That's
this,
a North
that
Star.
trajectory is up,
Yeah.
then we're on the right trajectory. And as soon
Interesting.
as we go down, that's when all the red bells and lights start. The red lights and bells start going off.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's a good place to. So let's quickly talk about, let's lighten it up a little bit. So share with us one of those, I'm sure in this last 38 years, there has been few aha moments while running the business. Just light bulb went on. Hey, what were we doing?
Well, for me, and I think for a lot of particularly new starting people, I
Hmm.
think you get so caught up in doing everything yourself, and eventually you get to the point you can't do that. And
Yes.
probably for me, early in my career, you know, kind of had to take a leap of faith, and I hired my first assistant.
Hmm.
And man, it freed me up so much that I could start doing more, and I could start doing more. Then I hired another one. And every time I hired someone, particularly early in my career, it was taking a step back financially.
Yes.
And but I said, but after I did it the first time, I said, now this is how we can write more business. And then I did that over and over and over. And I think too many young people getting started in this business, especially, they wait too long to hire people and bring them on to where they can really work at their optimum. So to
Mhm.
me, learning that early was probably the most critical thing to my success. And
There you
and
go.
after that, I just kept on.
Yeah, well, learning from that, of course. So now let's quickly take a macro view on things and talk about, your learning with this last several years, decades of what are you seeing in the industry right now? Any major change, shift, trend that's worth talking about?
Oh, absolutely. It's change, because I was warned to begin with. I was warned right when I started in this business. There's one thing that we can promise you that it is going to change all the
Hmm.
time. And it has. It has changed. It literally changed at almost unprecedented pace, particularly the last few years. But obviously, technology has been the biggest change in our industry from when I started. And it continues to be a driving force in it. That being said, we've all been warned the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Technology is going to take over and technology is going
Yeah.
to take your business away from you. And, our business is growing about a 20% a year clip. So,
Oh, good for
uh,
you.
uh, you know, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing technology take over. Matter of fact, we're seeing just the opposite. I think
Hmm.
people, I think
Enabling you guys.
I think people now are starved for relationships and personal contact. And yes, there's always going to be the certain people that want to do it strictly through technology, but we have not found that to be the case. We have
Mhm.
found technology to enhance us to do a better job
Yep.
for the people that we do work with. And we
Yes.
try to make it easier for them. We have a mobile app. We have things that are easier to access. We have all kinds of things that are consistently we're working on to make it a better user experience
Yep.
for our customers. But it's still a relationship driven business, is what we find. And
Yes.
some would argue with me on that, and I know it sounds like technology's taken over our industry, but
Proof is
we're
in the
just not
pudding.
seeing
It's
it.
working for you, so it's working.
We're just
You
not
know.
seeing it. We're
Yeah.
not seeing. You can tell me that this is what's happening, but when I look at when we look at our books,
Yeah.
that's not what's happening. We're
Yes.
growing. So,
Yes. So back to, I said in the beginning of the call, we'll come back to this, is let's talk about the current economic situation, the expected slowdown and its impact on insurance business. As a CEO, what's your perspective?
well, like I said at the very beginning of this, we are kind of in I don't want to say recession proof, but we are in a recession resistant
Hmm.
business. And that's always been the case. Every recession, I've been through several now.
Yeah.
And in every case, yeah, we have a little dip, fewer homes being sold, some businesses really struggling may go out of business, you know, but we've kind of been in that for the last couple of years. Like on the auto, people, you can't find a vehicle if you wanted to buy one even. So um, I hate what is going on. I hate that we may be facing a recession. I know it's very difficult on families with inflation, but at the end of the day, in our industry, I still think that we're sitting in pretty good position and we're continuing to grow. And hopefully, it will not have a very negative effect on us. But it does have a negative effect on our clients, and we feel for that. So we're
Sure.
working very closely with our clients on, hey, how can you save money? What can we do? How can we shift these type of things? We're advisors to them to help them get through this difficult time. And I'm
That's
sure,
a very key point. Hey, how do you help yourself?
yeah, yeah. I mean, we're having those conversations daily right now.
Nice. Nice.
People are struggling. Gas prices are out the roof. And inflation is running such a high clip. And insurance is it's a major bill for most families.
For
And
sure.
we're looking at them right now and saying, well, here's a few things that you could do to help cut that down maybe a little bit. during this difficult time. And that's why they like the relationship, because we are advising them. We don't look, and some people think, well, that's naive from a business standpoint, but we really don't look at the premium. We don't look at the commission. We have always focused on taking care of the client, doing the absolute very best thing for them. And at the end of the day, that pays off more for us than it
There
ever
you go.
could in making a little more commission here or there. And
Awesome.
so,
Well, I want to be very particular about the time. I want to be, as I said, it has to be 30 minutes. So I'm trying to condense in that. My last question:
uh,
what's the end game? As I always say, start with end in mind. What's your end game in this career, and how do you see that?
well, my end game is twofold. Number one, I'd like to be on a boat somewhere a lot more often than I am now. And number two is I should flip it around. Really, number one, I've got people I care about very deeply in this business. They're just like family to me. My daughter is family to me, who
Yes, of
works in
course.
our business.
Yes.
My goal is when I step away from it, that I'm 100% confident that they will have the tools to remain successful for many, many years to come after I'm gone.
Well, that's so much of power-packed knowledge within the 30 minutes. I could not have, had a better person to, just unpack 40 years in 30 minutes.
Well, I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate everything you have shared with us and with the audience here. And thank you, Brent, for all of that.
All right. You're welcome, brother.